Have you ever stood in the bread aisle, picked up a loaf you've eaten for years, and quietly wondered, is this actually hurting my kidneys? Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear until it's too late. The bread you eat every single day can either help your body flush toxins or silently push your kidneys closer to failure without a single warning sign. I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and I see this all the time in my practice. People doing their best, eating what they think is normal, while their kidney function keeps slipping. Not because of one big mistake, but because of small daily choices that add up faster than they realize. Excess sodium hidden phosphorus ingredients. Your kidneys struggle to filter all hiding in foods that look completely harmless on the surface. And what makes this even more dangerous is that kidney damage doesn't scream for attention. It whispers. You feel fine, until one day your labs change your energy drops, and suddenly the conversation shifts to medications restrictions or worse, dialysis. That's why this matters right now, not later. But here's the part most people don't expect. You don't have to give up bread to protect your kidneys. In fact, when you choose the right kind and eat it the right way, bread can actually support digestion, reduce toxin buildup, and take pressure off your kidneys instead of adding to it. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 best breads for kidney health using simple facts, real-world insight, and no confusing medical language. And I strongly recommend you stay with me until the end, because the final bread on this list is something millions of Americans eat every day, yet almost no one realizes how powerful it can be for protecting their kidneys when used correctly. When it comes to kidney health, the first type of bread I want to talk about is one most people think they already understand: whole grain or whole wheat bread. But what I'm about to explain is where many well-intentioned people get it wrong, and where the difference between helping your kidneys or quietly overloading them really begins. I remember a patient in his early 60s who told me, "Dr. Ellis, I switched to brown bread years ago because I heard it was healthier." His intentions were good, but when we looked closer, the bread he was eating was only partly whole grain, packed with refined flour, added sodium, and preservatives. His digestion was sluggish, his blood sugar kept spiking, and his kidney numbers were slowly drifting in the wrong direction, even though he thought he was doing everything right. Here's what truly matters. Real whole grain bread works differently inside your body because of fiber. Fiber isn't just about digestion, it's one of the kidney's quiet allies. When you eat enough fiber, your gut moves waste out of the body more efficiently. That means fewer toxins are reabsorbed into your bloodstream, and less toxic load ends up being filtered by your kidneys. In simple terms, fiber gives your kidneys less cleanup work to do. Research consistently shows that diets higher in dietary fiber are associated with better toxin control, improved gut health, and more stable metabolic markers, all of which directly influence kidney stress. Fiber also slows down blood sugar absorption, which is critical because repeated blood sugar spikes can damage the tiny blood vessels inside the kidneys over time. This is why people with early kidney disease often see faster decline when blood sugar isn't well controlled. But not all brown bread is created equal. A true whole grain or whole wheat bread should list 100% whole wheat or 100% whole grain as the first ingredient, not enriched flour, not wheat flour, not a blend that sounds healthy but behaves like white bread once it hits your bloodstream. Whole grains contain all 3 parts of the grain, the bran, germ, and endosperm, and that's where the fiber, natural vitamins, and protective compounds live. When those parts are stripped away, what you're left with digests quickly, spikes blood sugar, and contributes very little to toxin removal. For someone with kidney concerns, that difference adds up day after day, slice after slice. Portion size matters too. Even the best bread can become a burden if it's overdone. For most people, managing kidney health, 1 to 2 slices per day is a reasonable range. Pairing whole grain bread with low-sodium foods like eggs, vegetables, or healthy spreads helps protect the benefit. On the other hand, processed meats, salty cheeses, or cured toppings can cancel it out entirely. So whole grain bread isn't about being healthy in a generic sense. It's about choosing a bread that slows digestion, supports the gut, stabilizes blood sugar, and quietly reduces the workload your kidneys face every single day. But here's where most people stop, and that's a mistake, because digestion problems don't always come from grains themselves. Sometimes the real issue isn't fiber at all. It's how your body reacts to gluten. And that leads us to the next type of bread, that could make an even bigger difference than you expect. If whole grain bread is about fiber and blood sugar control, then the next issue many people never think about is digestion itself. Because even the healthiest bread on paper can still create problems if your body struggles to process it. And that's where gluten-free bread enters the conversation in a very different way. I often hear people say, Dr. Ellis, I don't have celiac disease, so gluten doesn't matter. But digestion isn't always that black and white. I remember a woman in her late 50s who came in with stable kidney labs on paper, yet she felt constantly bloated, tired after meals, and uncomfortable. She was eating what she believed was a kidney-friendly diet, but her gut was under constant stress. When we temporarily removed gluten and replaced her bread with a carefully chosen gluten-free option, her digestion improved within weeks, and so did her energy and lab trends. Here's why that matters for your kidneys. Poor digestion slows down the movement of waste through the gut. When waste lingers, more toxins are reabsorbed into the bloodstream, and once they're in your blood, your kidneys are forced to filter them out. Over time, that extra workload can quietly accelerate kidney stress, even if your diet looks clean on the surface. Gluten-free breads made from grains like rice, corn quinoa, buckwheat, or amaranth can be easier to digest for many people, especially those with sensitive guts. Better digestion means fewer toxins circulating in the blood, which means less strain on kidney filtration. This gut-kidney connection is one of the most overlooked factors in kidney health, yet research continues to show that improved digestive efficiency directly supports lower toxin burden and metabolic stability. But this is where many people make a critical mistake. Gluten-free does not automatically mean kidney-friendly. To improve taste and texture, many gluten-free breads are loaded with sodium, phosphorus-based additives, and sometimes even potassium salts. For someone with kidney disease, these hidden minerals can be far more dangerous than gluten itself. Excess sodium increases fluid retention and blood pressure, two of the fastest ways to stress already weakened kidneys. Added phosphorus, especially inorganic phosphorus from additives, is absorbed almost completely by the body and can accelerate kidney damage much faster than natural phosphorus found in whole foods. This is why reading the nutrition label matters more than the front of the package ever will. A safer gluten-free bread has a short ingredient list, lower sodium content, and minimal additives. Portion size matters just as much here. One slice at a time, up to 1 or 2 slices per day, is usually a reasonable limit for people managing kidney concerns. Pairing gluten-free bread with fresh vegetables, eggs, or lean protein helps keep the overall meal kidney-friendly, while salty spreads and processed meats undo the benefit almost instantly. So gluten-free bread isn't about following a trend. It's about recognizing when digestion itself is becoming a hidden source of kidney stress and choosing a version of bread that gives your gut and your kidneys a break. But understanding digestion alone still isn't the full picture, because there's another type of bread that goes one step further, not by removing gluten, but by changing the grain itself in a way that transforms how your body absorbs nutrients. And that difference may matter more than most people realize. If gluten-free bread helps by removing a trigger, your body struggles with the next type of bread, works in a much deeper way, not by taking something out, but by changing the grain itself. And this is where many people are genuinely surprised by how much difference one small step in preparation can make for kidney health. Sprouted grain bread starts with whole grains, but instead of grinding them immediately, the grains are soaked in water until they begin to sprout. That short window of sprouting quietly transforms the grain. I once worked with a patient who told me, Dr. Ellis, bread always makes me feel heavy no matter what kind I eat. When we switched him to a sprouted grain option, his digestion changed within days. He didn't feel bloated, his energy stayed steady after meals, and over time his labs stopped trending in the wrong direction. Here's why that happens. Sprouting reduces compounds called anti-nutrients, especially phytic acid. Phytic acid binds to minerals like iron, calcium, and zinc, and prevents your body from absorbing them efficiently. For people with kidney concerns, poor mineral absorption is a hidden problem. You can be eating the right foods and still not getting what your body needs. Sprouting lowers these blockers, allowing nutrients to be absorbed more effectively instead of passing through unused. From a kidney perspective, this matters because sprouted grains are easier to digest and less taxing on the gut. Easier digestion means less waste lingering in the intestines, fewer toxins entering the bloodstream, and less work for the kidneys to do. Sprouted grain bread also contains more fiber and slightly higher quality protein than standard white bread, helping stabilize blood sugar and support muscle maintenance, both critical for slowing kidney decline. Scientific research supports this. Studies in nutrition science show that sprouting increases antioxidant activity and improves mineral bioavailability. Antioxidants help reduce inflammation, which is a major driver of kidney damage over time. Lower inflammation means less ongoing injury to the delicate filtering units inside the kidneys. A practical example helps here. One slice of sprouted grain bread, about 40 grams, typically provides around 90 calories, 6 grams of protein, and roughly 3 grams of fiber. That single slice can cover over 10% of daily fiber needs without the blood sugar spike that refined bread causes. For people managing kidney health, this balance is incredibly valuable. But even with sprouted grain bread, moderation still matters. Eating large portions can slowly increase mineral load, especially if sodium sneaks in from toppings or spreads. One slice per meal up to 1 or 2 slices per day is a safe range for most people with kidney concerns. Pair it with low-sodium foods like eggs, vegetables, or simple spreads, and avoid salty additions that undo its benefits. Sprouted grain bread isn't about chasing the latest health trend. It's about making digestion more efficient, nutrient absorption more effective, and kidney workload lighter all at the same time. For many people, it becomes the most comfortable bread their body has tolerated in years. But even this isn't the full picture yet, because there's another type of bread that doesn't just change the grain, it changes the fermentation process itself. And that process can dramatically alter how your gut, your blood chemistry, and your kidneys respond after every single meal. If sprouted grain bread changes the grain itself, the next type of bread changes something even more powerful, the way that grain is fermented. And this is where sourdough quietly separates itself from almost every other bread people eat today. Most modern breads are rushed. Commercial yeast forces the dough to rise quickly, and your body is left to deal with whatever wasn't properly broken down during that process. Sourdough works differently. It's made through slow fermentation using natural yeast and lactic acid bacteria, sometimes over many hours or even days. That time does something your kidneys care deeply about, even if you've never heard it explained this way. I once had a patient who told me, "Dr. Ellis, bread doesn't hurt my stomach, but I always feel heavy and inflamed afterward." His labs showed mild but consistent kidney stress. When we switched him from standard bread to a simple traditional sourdough, something unexpected happened. His digestion felt smoother, his bloating faded, and his inflammatory markers stopped creeping upward. Nothing else in his diet changed. Here's why. Slow fermentation partially breaks down gluten and reduces compounds called FODMAPs, short-chain carbohydrates that many people don't absorb well. High FODMAP foods can ferment in the gut, causing gas, bloating, and irritation. When the gut is irritated, toxins pass more easily into the bloodstream, and the kidneys are forced to filter them out. Over time, that added burden matters. Research has shown that sourdough fermentation improves mineral availability and lowers post-meal blood sugar spikes compared to standard bread. Lower blood sugar swings protect the tiny blood vessels in the kidneys, while improved mineral handling reduces unnecessary stress on filtration. This is especially important for people with early or moderate kidney disease. Now, here's a detail that surprises many people. For some individuals with chronic kidney disease, white sourdough can actually be more kidney-friendly than whole grain sourdough. Why? Because white sourdough is often lower in potassium and phosphorus. Two minerals weakened kidneys struggle to remove efficiently. That doesn't mean whole grain sourdough is bad, but it does mean the healthiest choice depends on kidney stage lab values and tolerance. One slice of sourdough bread, roughly 60 grams, typically contains around 180 calories, about 7 grams of protein, and close to 2 grams of fiber. It also provides iron, which matters because many kidney patients struggle with anemia. But this is where caution becomes critical. Not all sourdough is real sourdough. Many store-bought versions are flavored to taste sour, but still rely on commercial yeast-added sodium and even phosphate additives. Those additives are absorbed almost completely and can accelerate kidney damage far faster than natural food sources. A true sourdough should have a short ingredient list: flour, water, salt, and starter. Fewer ingredients usually mean fewer hidden risks. Portion size still applies here. One slice at a time, no more than 1 to 2 slices per day, is a reasonable guideline for most people with kidney concerns. Pair sourdough with low-sodium foods like eggs, vegetables, or fresh spreads, and avoid processed meats or salty toppings that undo its benefits in minutes. Sourdough isn't about tradition or taste alone. It's about slowing digestion, calming the gut, stabilizing blood chemistry, and quietly reducing the workload your kidneys face after every meal. But even with all of that, there's still one bread left that people either fear completely or rely on without thinking twice. And how you handle that final choice may matter more than any other decision on this list. After everything we've talked about so far, fiber digestion, sprouting fermentation, it might surprise you that the final bread on this list is one many people were told to eat for decades, and just as many people now believe they must avoid at all costs. I'm talking about white bread. For years, white bread was actually the standard recommendation for many people with chronic kidney disease. And that wasn't random. Compared to whole grain breads, white bread is naturally lower in potassium and phosphorus, two minerals that weakened kidneys struggle to remove from the bloodstream. In earlier stages of kidney disease, controlling these minerals can reduce complications like fluid retention, bone problems, and dangerous electrolyte imbalances. I remember an older patient who told me, almost embarrassed, "Dr. Ellis, white bread is the only bread I actually enjoy anymore." He had tried forcing himself to eat whole grain bread because he thought it was healthier, but it upset his stomach and made him miserable. When we looked at his labs and adjusted his diet thoughtfully, white bread chosen carefully and eaten in moderation actually helped him stay consistent with his eating plan instead of fighting it every day. Here's the shift in understanding that many people missed. Not all phosphorus and potassium behave the same way in the body. Natural phosphorus in whole foods is not absorbed as efficiently as inorganic phosphorus added to processed foods. Over the last decade, experts have realized that it's not always necessary to eliminate these minerals completely, especially when kidney disease is stable and well managed. What matters more is how much you're absorbing and how consistently your kidneys are being stressed. That said, white bread has real limitations. It's lower in fiber, antioxidants, and protective nutrients compared to whole grain or sprouted options. That means it does less to support digestion and toxin removal. On its own, it doesn't actively help your kidneys, it simply avoids overwhelming them when chosen wisely. And this is where white bread becomes dangerous if misunderstood. Many commercial white breads are high in sodium and added sugars. Excess sodium raises blood pressure and increases fluid retention, both of which directly accelerate kidney damage. Added sugars spike blood glucose, harming the tiny blood vessels inside the kidneys over time. This is why label reading matters more with white bread than almost any other type. A safer white bread has a short ingredient list, lower sodium, little to no added sugar, and no phosphate additives. Italian white bread, simple sandwich bread, or bakery-style white bread often fits this profile better than ultra-processed packaged versions. Portion size remains critical. 1 to 2 slices per day is a reasonable limit for most people with kidney concerns. White bread also works best when paired intelligently. Eating it with eggs, vegetables, or lean protein slows digestion and reduces blood sugar spikes. Pairing it with processed meats, salty spreads, or cured cheeses can undo its relative safety almost instantly. So white bread isn't a villain, and it's not a miracle food either. It's a strategic option. For some people, especially those struggling with appetite, digestion, or dietary burnout, it can be the difference between sticking to a kidney-friendly plan and giving up entirely. But here's the part almost no one talks about. The real danger isn't choosing white bread or whole grain bread, it's thinking the bread choice alone is what decides your kidney future. Because there's one final factor often overlooked that can quietly determine whether your kidneys stay stable or whether you end up facing dialysis far sooner than expected. And that's exactly what we need to talk about next. Up to this point, you might be thinking, okay, I'll just choose the right bread and I'll be fine. And I understand that thought because I hear it all the time. But this is where I need you to pause for a moment, because bread alone is not what decides the future of your kidneys. What truly determines whether your kidneys stay stable or quietly decline is how all these choices stack together day after day. The type of bread you eat, how often you eat it, what you eat it with, And just as important, what's hidden in the ingredients you never think to check. I've seen patients eat healthy bread, but pair it with salty spreads, processed meats, and convenience foods loaded with phosphate additives. On paper, the bread looked fine. In reality, their kidneys were still being hit from multiple angles at every meal. And because kidney damage doesn't cause pain early on, they had no idea anything was wrong until their lab results told a very different story. This is the part that surprises most people. Dialysis doesn't usually come from one bad decision. It comes from hundreds of small, unnoticed ones that slowly push the kidneys past a point of recovery. The bread aisle seems harmless, but when choices there are made without awareness, they quietly shape the workload your kidneys face every single day. That's why I don't want you walking away from this video thinking you need perfection. You don't. What you need is clarity. Knowing which breads support digestion, which ones reduce toxin buildup, which ones are safer at certain stages of kidney disease, and how to use them without undoing the benefit. Because when patients finally understand this, something powerful happens. They stop feeling confused. They stop bouncing between extremes. And most importantly, they stop blaming themselves and start making calm, consistent choices their kidneys can actually handle. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you how to pull all of this together into a simple way of eating that feels normal, sustainable, and protective, not restrictive or stressful. This is where hope replaces fear and where small changes start to matter more than you ever realized. Before you go, I want you to hear this clearly. If you're dealing with kidney concerns or even just trying to protect your kidneys as you get older, you are not failing and you are not alone. Kidney health is shaped by small, everyday decisions, and the fact that you're watching this video means you're already taking a step in the right direction. You don't need perfection. What matters most is consistency awareness and choosing foods that work with your body instead of against it. My advice is simple. Slow down your choices. Read labels. Pay attention to how your body responds after meals. Choose breads that support digestion, keep sodium under control, and reduce unnecessary stress on your kidneys. And remember, enjoying food is part of staying healthy too. The right approach should feel sustainable, not restrictive or punishing. If you found this video helpful, I strongly encourage you to save it so you can come back to it whenever you need a reminder or reassurance. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because we regularly share clear, trustworthy medical insights to help you protect your kidneys. Understand your lab results and make smarter daily choices as you age. New videos are released often, and staying informed can make a real difference over time. Most importantly, don't lose hope. I've seen many people stabilize their kidney function and feel better simply by making calmer, more informed decisions, not drastic ones.